Welcome to Saddle Up Live, a transformative podcast tailored for women aged 40 and beyond, where courage, God's grace, and a touch of sass are the driving forces behind conquering life's challenges. Join me, Lisa Koski, as I take you on a captivating ride through the multifaceted aspects of womanhood in this vibrant stage of life. Covering everything from my journey through breast cancer, the intricacies of marriage, and the joys of motherhood, to the exciting adventures of grandparenting. Together, we will uncover actionable strategies for personal and professional development, providing you with the tools and inspiration needed to blaze new trails and seize every opportunity that comes your way, no matter what your age or stage. Welcome, listeners. I'm so thankful that you're here today, as always. And I'm excited. I do have exciting news. And I know that I told you last week that I'd fill you in. And I mentioned that I was writing a book. But at the end of April, I am going to the Oaks in California. And I am working with Bob Goff. I could jump up and down and scream. I'm working with him to get my book done. So, super excited. I can't wait to fill you in more. I have not heard the voice of God a lot, but I swore I heard him say, write the book. So we'll see if it's meant for my healing, for your healing, but really excited about it. And I'll talk more about it as I go. And too, I'm traveling. So I'm in Iowa helping my daughter who's working nights and selling a house and has a little. So I'm helping out with that. So we're doing a couple of these independent podcasts without a guest, but I promise I have lots of them lined up and they're going to be jumping on soon if you're tired of hearing my stories. But this episode, I'm excited about, and I've been wanting to share it for about a week. I've held on. I'm like, okay, I cannot forget that I want to share this information. I actually just wrote down some notes before I jumped on to record this. And last week, Mel Robbins did a fabulous, she's amazing, right? She did a fabulous podcast about being respected by others. I thought, oh, that's a good one. So I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to tell you something interesting that I learned about myself. And at the end, I can't help it. I'm going to throw anxiety in there because I used a tool that really helped me. And you know that I'm always looking for those tools to help us through hard things like anxiety. So I'm going to talk about that at the end. I'm going to start out with kind of doing a quick little review of that podcast on getting respect from other people. And she explained so concisely how you can be disrespected. And I think sometimes we're not aware of it. So just kind of become aware of it. And one great example is being interrupted, which sadly I interrupt, and that's disrespectful. So on the flip side, I'm going to really practice not interrupting. However, I get interrupted too, especially in a big house full of a big loud family, and I'm not so loud. And what she said was, when you get interrupted, keep talking, slow down. And sometimes if you use a quiet, slower voice, people will really tune in and listen to you. So she suggested that. And she said, if you're still being interrupted, just bring it up, which is, why don't we do that? Like, we carry things with us and we don't just say, hey, Harvey, I want to hear what you have to say, but I was talking about this. So can we come back to you later? And then how respectful it would be if you did come back after you said your piece. Then you could say, hey, Harvey, come back in. So okay, that's great advice. And I'm going to watch for that, because we all know that if we want to be respected, it starts with us, right? Another thing she mentioned is your feelings matter. So don't let anyone say, why would you feel like that? Or that's stupid, or whatever it is. Your feelings matter, and make sure that you're aware of that. And you can, again, just voice it. Here's a good one, and I have a little story about this one. When people are not on time for you, like if you have a coffee date or whatever it is, that's disrespectful. And I do have one friend that likes to run late, not horribly late. And it's disrespectful. And so to be respectful, make sure you get on time to places. And we all know that things happen. Traffic pops up, whatever it is, just get there and say thank you for being patient because that's the best you can do. And you don't need to like go into these big ordeals because we're all busy and things happen, but just say thank you for your patience. But I have a story, and there were these friends that I had in high school. And I mean, I was kind of in their friend group, but I don't know, I kind of flittered around to a lot of friend groups because, I was that people pleaser that wanted everyone to like me. But I didn't really connect with them, but they were kind of my friend group. So as I grew and I think I was even graduated from college and I was going to meet them. We were going to meet at a restaurant, cute little restaurant in Stillwater. We had cell phones. It was quite a while ago. It was probably like 15 years ago, maybe even a little bit more than that. And so I got to the restaurant on time and I sat there probably for half an hour. And I don't even know. I think they bothered to call me about 45 minutes in and they were like kind of laughing about it. And I was sitting there all by myself. It wasn't like one person was there. It was like four people who were coming and they were all late. And I made a decision and it did kind of end I made the decision to end that relationship with those people. And I got up and I left. It was too far and I respected myself too much. And so those ladies kind of laughed at me. Nobody apologized, and so I was kind of done. I mean, I've seen them. It's not like we hate them. Of course, we forgive people because we're Christians, right? But it wasn't a good friend group for me anyway. And I had to respect myself. So I left the restaurant and I didn't say sorry. I didn't, which would be a normal Lisa move. I just let it go. I let them and the relationship did fizzle, but it was necessary that it fizzled. So be on time. And when you can't be, just say thank you for your patience. Another thing that Mel talked about was how the silent treatment is really kind of not abusive, but kind of because somebody's not telling you that they're mad at you. And they're mad because they think you should read their mind. And I've been on both sides of this, right? So let's remember that and remember that people don't read minds. And I know we think that they should. And how could they not know that? People don't. You have no right to be mad if you can't tell them. So just tell them. And I am telling you, I have used this in my life lately and it really, really does work. So quit the silent treatment. Let's just bring it out onto the table. I do need to add, and this is kind of going to get into how I'm going to talk about how this information about respect from other people really made me look at sometimes I disrespect myself. And there are times when I think I shouldn't be mad about that. And so then I don't say that I'm mad about it. And then then I do this silent treatment because I'm not saying what I feel. People, your feelings matter. Talk it out. If you're mad, you have every right. Look at it. Talk about it. You can be polite and say, okay, this is making me feel this way. Was that your intent? So clarify it. And that's the same thing she also talked about, and this is so interesting. I had an attorney that I worked with, and she was a little bit older than me, and she would do like backhanded, sarcastic, like, oh, you don't seem like you'd be an attorney. And what Mel said to do, I would just take that. I remember I could just feel like, ugh, feeling icky about it. And Mel said, ask them to repeat it. Say, oh, wait, can you say that again? And she said they don't want to repeat it because they kind of want to slide it in and not be nice. And then let them know how it made you feel. As you're earning respect from other people, you're going to gain respect for yourself because, like I said, as I look through all of these, it starts with me and friends, I don't respect myself enough. No, I did. Like I said, there were some examples. Like with those friends, I had had enough and I respected myself. But so many times I don't respect my own feelings and I judge them. And I think we all do this. And I go, well, I shouldn't be feeling that way. So that's stupid. And so I'm not going to say how I feel. Just like I was saying, I'm not going to tell someone I'm mad because I shouldn't be mad. You need to respect your feelings. And we know we've talked about this a lot that our feelings aren't going to hurt us. We need to go into them. I mean, and there is just so much work in this. I feel like there are so many things getting thrown together for me right now on this healing journey. And to really know where your feelings are coming from, I'd like to talk about that core wounds course because you got to go way back to when you were like two or whatever it was. And that takes work. Like there's a JJ Flizane course that is in these show notes that I highly recommend. The work that I did with Sonia, the tapping gal that was on the podcast, she also talked about you've got to go back to where those feelings come from because you can make positive affirmations all you want. But if you don't really know what you're looking at and where that stems from, it's going to be hard. And I think it's probably a process that you're going to go through your whole life. You're going to keep growing and learning, of course. But I can tell you, I mean, you've seen me go through this journey. Life is getting better. So that Mel Robbins podcast, go back and listen to it, talked about getting respect from other people. And I'm telling you, use it and respect yourself. Be on time for yourself. When you have a lunch date to watch Heartland and eat a salad like I do, be on time. That's your time. Be on time for yourself. Be kind about your feelings. Be understanding and have empathy when you feel angry. Be kind to yourself. And then on the other side, as we can grow and get that respect for ourselves, I do think that's where it starts, but it is in conjunction with other people. It will give you practice on how to gain that respect. So I feel so strongly about that. I have been wanting to talk about that since last week when I was on a walk and I heard that podcast. I promised you that I would talk also not only about the respect piece, but about anxiety because it's just something that I'm always dealing with. And I'm really wanting to wean off the medication that I was on that I'm thankful for because it was a situational journey for me and I needed it. But I also think maybe I wonder if it's maybe muddling with my clarity a little bit. When I get overwhelmed, it can kind of stop me. And so I want to look at what it's going to be like. So I'm slowly weaning off of it. So I really need to make sure that I'm dealing with anxiety well. I am a person who is very easily overwhelmed. And I don't like that about me. See, I'm not being nice to myself. Who cares? God created me. It's who I am. But I get really overwhelmed. And I am in a season right now where I am writing a book, trying to do this podcast, still doing some divorces, and I want to be a number one grandma. I love being grandma. And so that's why when my daughter needed me, I said, yes, for sure. I want to come and help. However, I get overwhelmed with it. So last weekend, I could tell that the stress has been going up because I'm traveling back and forth between my home and 5-hour trip away. So one night I was in bed and I thought, okay, sometimes I forget to do my coaching stuff. So I went deep into the feeling of overwhelm and I thought, where is this coming from? And I grabbed onto my father and I brought him with me to my father in heaven. And I looked at this overwhelm and I felt it because we've learned that, like, right? It's not going to hurt you. So I really looked at it. And then I used the pieces from my core wounds and I went, when was the first time that I felt overwhelmed? And, and you guys, I have this story about I probably was 2 years old and I was lost in the woods and I still remember it. And I don't remember being terrified then, but I think the overwhelm was, where am I? Who's coming to help me? And I think that may have been, or one time my mom dropped me in water babies. Now, she didn't mean to do it, but I remember it. And that's overwhelm and that's scary. And so I went back to that and I looked at it and I go, okay, well, that makes sense. That's the first time you felt overwhelmed. And then I remembered something that someone saying that when you feel gratitude, you can't feel anxiety. So I thought, well, let me think about that. So I was feeling overwhelmed about having to travel a lot and lots of things coming up with the book writing and all the things that are coming in my life, lots of good things. And I went and I did the surrender thing and I stayed close to my father and I used gratitude. And I thought about all the prayers he had answered. And I thought about how there had been so many times where I had been so worried and he was there. And then I thought about the times where everything worked out, even though maybe I was worried about finances or how I was going to get something done. He was there and it always worked. And I started remembering and focusing. And the Bible tells you to focus on what is pure and true. And when I started drawing my focus towards that, I had peace. I had peace and I'm holding on to it. This was 2 days ago. I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling peace because I have gratitude and I keep remembering that the things that I am thankful for, the things that have worked out, the things that God has done for me, I am focusing on those. And it gives me an immense amount of peace. That does not mean that I am trying to shove aside the feelings, the hard feelings that I had. I felt those, and I'm sure I'm going to have to go back and feel them because they're there and they pop out if you don't. Because I think a lot of times in the past, I would try to push them away and just focus on the gratitude. Stay focused on the gratitude along with feeling those feelings. I don't know. I'm an attorney and a grandma and a mom. I'm not a therapist, but I want to share this with you because it has worked for me and I have learned it from therapists. So let me know if it works for you and let me know if you have tips that have worked and jump on this podcast. Thanks so much for being here. You take good care.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Saddle Up Live. As we conclude this exhilarating journey together, don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and become a valued member of our vibrant community. Because, as always, every woman deserves to thrive, flourish, and live her best life. Until the next time, saddle up and keep conquering those trails.